Hi everyone, welcome to today's webcast. As Lauren said, analytics for digital commerce with Power BI. So this session is going to be hosted by myself and my colleague Sushma. We're both data and analytics consultants, and our experience lies across data engineering, data science, and data visualization for customers in consumer goods, pharmaceuticals, insurance, and real estate. Our details are up there, so if you have any questions about the webcast or if you just want to connect to us on LinkedIn, please do so, and you can reach out to us via LinkedIn or email. The agenda for today, for the next 30 minutes or so, I'll do a quick introduction to Thorogood for those who don't know about us already. Then I'm going to cover what is digital commerce, so what, in terms of the organizations that I'm talking to, what are they describing digital commerce as? Then I'm going to hand over to Sushma, and she's going to talk through a couple of demos showing how you can bring in KPIs around digital commerce to get insights into your business. Then I'm going to pick up again after the demos to talk about the challenges as well as the opportunities in digital commerce as well. Then I will round off with how we can get you started and any next steps that you can take along with Thorogood. So to introduce Thorogood, who are we? Well, we're an independent consultancy with specialism in data science, data engineering, and data visualization. You can see there that we operate globally across a number of locations, and we do all types of different project work for customers, from training all the way through to complete application design and development and support. But really what I want to draw your attention to is the part on the left, which is where we see our company's value line. We see it lying in the combination of analytics, technology, and business focus. So anytime we're starting a project or talking with a customer, we're bringing our analytics knowledge, we're bringing our technology knowledge, which we bring from previous experience, but also partnering with some of the latest technology vendors, and then also bring a business domain understanding. And then as soon as we're talking to a customer, the thing that we're really going to try and understand is their business, what's their business goals, what are the business problems, and how can we help solve them with our existing business knowledge, our analytical knowledge, and our technology knowledge as well, so that we can really help them meet their business goals. I mentioned technology partnerships. So these are some of the technologies that we work with. We're partnered with the three largest cloud vendors in the world, AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud platform. And we also partner with Databricks, which is a unified data engineering, data science tool, which can be used on all three of these cloud platforms as well. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea around Thorogood, our company, and how we can help your organization. So what I'm going to dive into now is digital commerce. So what is it? Well, what I'll say first of all is that we've been speaking to a number of different organizations who are really expanding their digital commerce resources and insights and understanding. And everyone seems to be defining it a little bit differently in terms of like what comes under the full umbrella of digital commerce. So I'm going to give my idea of what I've seen customers talking about, but your definition may vary slightly in terms of what's really being included under digital commerce. So the first thing that you'll see consensus across all organizations with this is that digital commerce is more than just e-commerce. So e-commerce up until recently was seen as sort of just another channel. But really, when you expand it to digital commerce, there's more beyond just the digital purchasing of a product or a service. There's a lot more leading up to that, which I'll cover in this slide here. So really, the first stage of that is going to be brand recognition and brand awareness. So actually making customers aware that you exist and that your products, services, offerings exist as well. So probably the most well-known one of those will be PPC, so pay-per-click. So Google Ads would be the biggest provider of this. It could be on social media, it could be on web pages, anything like that to get people aware of your brands. There could also be organic social media engagement. So if you've seen the likes of a Ryanair, who have quite sort of funny replies to posts, sort of generating organic interest in their brand as well. Then you've got stuff like customer referrals. So whether that's through, say, an influencer on social media with a discount code, but also through like friend-to-friend referrals as well. And then the other side would be whenever someone's, say, looking for a type of product, and then they're putting that into a search engine, how high is your brand's rank within that search engine? So optimizing customers' ability to find you, both in terms of your sort of overall search engines like Google, but also in terms of if they're on an online marketplace, say on Amazon, how high is your rank in terms of the searches whenever someone's searching for, say, shoes? How high is your brand coming up if you're a footwear brand or anything like that? Then once a customer is actually aware of your brand, what's going to actually influence their decision to actually purchase your product? So how do you influence that decision? Well, one is just through general digital interaction. So whether it's through, if you have an app, or maybe if you're selling directly to the customer. So for example, I was buying plane tickets directly through an airline website. And actually, the process was so complicated that I gave up and bought on a different airline instead. So the digital interaction is something that consumers value, but they're also going to look at stuff like reviews and ratings. They're going to look at price, and you have to be concerned about how your product is being priced on different sites. So, for example, on one marketplace, you might be cheaper than your competition. In another one, you might be much higher. Then you also want to understand inventory, because that is going to be something that is massively going to contribute to the consumer's decision. If the item's in stock, that's great. If it's out of stock, they're not going to buy it. But if you could have restocked that retailer pretty quickly, then you've missed a sale there. If it's low stock, it can be seen as beneficial, because maybe the customer will make the decision to buy it before the product's gone. And then finally, targeted promotion. So once someone's shown actual interest in the product, and you can see that they've shown interest through like the digital tracking that's been done, either maybe by the retailer or maybe they've engaged with your brand, how can you send them some type of targeted promotion that might get them over the line to make either that first purchase or repeated purchase? And then obviously the majority of all this type of brand awareness and customer decision, all the sort of digital stuff, is mostly going to feed into e-commerce purchasing, but it is also going to influence physical sales. So actually, for the shoes I have on at the minute, I did a lot of research online, became aware of the brand, but actually went in and bought it in the store because I wanted the shoe on. But actually, it did come into the sort of brand awareness through digital commerce angle as well. It just ended up feeding into physical sales. So some people are saying that physical sales is even contributing under the umbrella of digital commerce. Another sort of digital commerce aspect of the sales process is stuff like augmented reality shopping or AI assistance. So, people using their Alexa to purchase milk, you've probably seen that in the adverts, but also augmented reality shopping. It might not be as large scale as, you put on your VR goggles and you walk into a Tesco or whatever. But when I was buying these glasses online, I was able to sort of get a picture of them, and there was a tool that was allowing me to put my face into them and see how they would, or give an idea of how they would look on my face. So all of that can be considered under the umbrella of digital commerce as well. And then, of course, with the sort of really key aspect around the sort of overall customer journey is retention. So it's unlikely that someone's just going to make one purchase of your product in their life. So you want to understand what's their total customer lifetime value. You want to develop brand loyalty. You want to re-engage dormant customers as well. And with digital commerce, you can actually sort of get a better understanding of someone sort of disengaging from your brand as well. But even whenever you're fulfilling an order, you want to make sure that you're providing like good service, returns, good customer support, collecting product feedback, and even feeding that into like R&D teams to improve your product as well. And there's many more things across all of these different buckets as well that you can work on and can be considered under the realm of digital commerce. The one thing where I think Thorogood can really help out, and the part that we're really interested in, is that brands and organizations will be able to define digital commerce better than we can. But what we can really help with is sourcing this data, integrating it, bringing it all together, harmonizing it, creating a data model, and really creating the tools that are going to improve the business's understanding of digital commerce through analytics. So to give you a bit of an idea of that, I'm going to hand over to Sushma, who's going to talk through some examples of the KPIs that you can examine through Power BI.
Thank you, Robbie. Now that we've seen different aspects of digital commerce, what we're going to look at next is a demo that we've put together in Power BI that gives you a flavor of some of them. So with growth of e-commerce as a channel for sales, analyzing your online sales transactions is key to your digital commerce initiative. There's value in understanding a customer's interactions online and how it can possibly affect online and physical sales. So a good place to start can be analyzing your online sales to see what trends can be observed. So some of the things we will look at in the first part of this demo are tracking your online sales in comparison with your physical sales and total sales, evaluating key metrics that can help you analyze and understand your e-commerce data better, and look to break down your sales by retailers to understand if there are patterns you can observe. So when you're looking at physical sales, a key data point is the actual transaction itself and maybe some additional data from sources such as surveys and customer feedback, etc. In the digital world, in addition to the actual transaction, there are so many data points from other parts of the customer's journey that are available to us. For instance, there's the decision making aspect that we discussed previously and data points related to that. So if for a specific transaction, there are n data points of which the actual transaction is one, and if the transaction itself does not happen, we still have n minus one data points from other parts of the customer's journey. So there's an added advantage to online sales, and this helps us track different metrics, including things like cart realization. So there's so much more beyond the transaction itself that you can understand about the customer's behavior from these other data points. If they've searched for or bought this product before, how long they had it in their cart before actually deciding to buy the product or not, and so on. So physical sales is not easily possible. You have no idea of knowing whether or not someone had a product in their cart before actually buying it. I mean, unless you go around following people around the supermarket. So the second part of the demo will focus on this customer decision making aspect. And we've discussed that from customer acquisition to retention, everything is included in your digital commerce initiative, right? So an interesting aspect of this journey is brand awareness, and running sentiment analysis on your brand data will help you understand it a lot better. So sentiment analysis is a process where we use natural language processing to identify the emotion behind a body of text. In the third part of our demo, we will also quickly look at how we can use social media data to understand user perception better and look at what's working well and what can be improved. So there are also various metrics that can be analyzed for coming up with customer retention strategies. So one example is understanding the customer lifetime value. So this is something that will take into account various aspects such as average order value for a customer, the average transaction count in a given time period, the loyalty of a customer to your brand, and so on. So tracking details related to this with proper segmentation can help you identify top customers and understand what's working well so you can improve your customer retention. Let us now move on to the demo. So in the first part, we will look at how online sales can be analyzed. So in the first page here, so you see some metrics related to sales profitability. So it'd be nice to track things like volume of sales, profit margin against target or previous month's sales, how your online sales vary across different brands, breaking it down by retailers as well, and see how different brands are performing for each retailer. So for example, is there a brand that's doing well for a particular retailer but not doing well for others, etc. So in this example, I see that Earth Tones is the top brand overall, and it's the case for two of my retailers as well. But if I click on Shipcart, I see that Earth Tones is not the top performing brand and Storm is. So it'd be useful to dig deeper to understand what's happening there. So it would also be a good idea to track the online sales in comparison with total sales and physical sales for different retailers. If I click on Shipcart here, I see that it's completely online, so I can't really compare this with physical sales. I see that it's 100% online here, and on the chart on my right, I see there is no physical sales component. But if I click on Warget, my other retailer, I see that e-commerce has an upwards trend, and after Q2 2022 here, I see that it's rapidly increasing, and our e-commerce sales through Warget is much higher than physical sales, which is showing a change in consumer behavior at that point. Another thing you can do is track your sales by country or region as well to see if there are specific regions that you might need to focus on to improve your online sales. So is there a brand that's doing better in a few geographical areas as compared to others? Is there more demand in that area, and so on. So now that we have a fair sense of how we can analyze our online sales data, let's extend our discussion to maybe other aspects of digital commerce. So one of the things we discussed earlier, cart realization. Let's start with cart abandonment. So it'd be useful to understand how many customers who add products to their shopping cart actually make it to checkout to complete their purchase. So imagine you've invested significantly into your marketing, but you're not actually seeing improvement in sales, and you realize what's happening is that users are adding products to their carts only to abandon them later on. So a lot of that investment actually goes to waste. So cart abandonment is something you can measure to determine potential problems and trends over time and see what may need to be changed, say, across different retailers. So I see that it's 26 percentage for Shipcart, and for Voget it's 53 percentage. So it'd be useful to understand what factors are influencing this. So the customers placing the order on their mobile phone or desktop application, how long have they had the product on their cart. Some studies show that the longer they take to decide, higher the possibility of abandoning it from the cart. So is this more in specific geography, specific age groups? Does it improve on specific days of the month? Perhaps maybe end of the month, since it's closer to salary day, and there's a better chance that people will end up actually purchasing products. And you can also investigate to see if there are specific regions where taxes are higher, or specific retailers which have higher delivery costs that may be contributing to this change. Are there technical issues in your website or app? Is there enough variety in payment methods? So these are some things you can track, and you can also understand whether this is more prevalent among people who are redirected to your website from specific sources such as social media. Some other metrics you can look at: your conversion rate, which is the rate at which users on your e-commerce site are actually buying your product. And there's also add to cart rate, which is the percentage of visitors actually adding a product to their cart. So you can track these metrics for different retailers, brand families, and look at trends across time. But something to be noted is that this data may not be available for all retailers. So retailer may not necessarily share the data with you. So we don't have data for Zevis, who's our retailer. We've looked at aspects related to sales. We've looked at customer decision making. Let us now move on to brand awareness. So I've collected some data from Twitter about my brands. I've filtered for tweets with specific hashtags or having my brand names in the tweet text to run sentiment analysis and understand how users perceive my brand. So I filtered for two of my brands here. And for example, here I can see there are more than 100 people mentioning my brands on Twitter from the data that I've collected. But unless I actually run sentiment analysis, I won't be able to understand the nature of these tweets, right? So if I'm actually looking at, say, a toothpaste brand, for example, I'll probably find out whether among these 150 people, half of them are actually only complaining about the flavor or smell of the brand, the toothpaste. So this natural language processing technique looks at negative and positive words within a body of text to determine the emotion. We then assign a sentiment score between -1 and +1 to the tweet based on the count and weight of the positive and negative words in the text to determine where in the spectrum this tweet lies, like negative, neutral, or positive, or sometimes even mixed. So for example, I want to compare the overall sentiment of two of the brands that I've selected here. So I see predominantly there's neutral sentiment, but if I want to compare positive and negative, I see that Earth Tones has 12% positive and 9% negative. So it's slightly more positive here, whereas for Intents, it's 6% positive and slightly more negative. So that's something I can see. And I can also see how tweets and their sentiment vary with location. I can filter for a specific country and see how the sentiment differs for that brand that I've selected. And I see here that there is a dip in sentiment for Intents on the 27th of July. So To see what may have contributed to this dip in sentiment, let me click on this and drill through to a slightly more detailed version. So I see there's one tweet here which has contributed to this. It talks about the scent of this product. So the customer says the customer expresses disappointment in the scent of the product, and I can also pin it down to the location as well. So this is such valuable information, and brand managers can do further analysis to see if there are more such tweets coming in, perhaps create focus groups to investigate and maybe address this. So I can also compare my brands with a competitor brand to see if there are things that are specifically working for them. So say, for example, Storm is a competitor brand, and I'm adding that to my selection. So I see a lot more engagement for a Storm. So if I want to drill through, so I'm clicking on the positive sentiment for Storm, and I'm trying to drill through to a more detailed version. So I can try and understand what are some of the tweets coming in, where are these tweets coming from, what is the overall sentiment level, number of tweets, and the latest tweets as well. So sentiment analysis in general gives you a picture of the market trends, customer preferences, what they're talking about your brand on social media, and all of these are constantly changing. So it can help you respond to situations, not just reactively, but also proactively if you monitor and track these trends in the right way. So this can also potentially feed into how you shape your brand awareness and marketing campaigns, and carefully curate next steps as well. So, in addition to social media data, you can also understand more about how your brand is doing by looking at data from customer service, for example. So, we've now reached the end of our demo. I'll now hand it back to Robbie. Thank you.
So let me get on to opportunities in digital commerce, and I'll start with the challenges really. So what's stopping you take hold of the opportunities? So really there's four sort of categories of blockers that I could come up with. So the first is data sourcing. So finding your data sources, often they're coming from third-party providers. How do you get them at the right granularity, and how do you automate the ingestion of those data sources as well? So, Sushma was talking about the cart realization data, but if you're, say, a manufacturer and then you're selling your products through like a third-party online platform, you need to have some sort of agreement that's going to have them send you the cart realization data, or maybe there's some other third party that can provide an aggregated view of that. But getting that at like the right granularity can be key. But it is possible to do this. We've seen some customers do so. Then data integration. So bringing together all this data of different formats, different granularities, setting up a secure connection to that source data as well, and merging different hierarchies as well. So all the sort of complications between, different data sources, naming your product SKUs, different things and everything like that. And just trying to make sense of it all and sorting that all out, and trying to do that in as automated a way as possible, so that whenever there's a new sort of, let's say, problematic brand name that comes in that doesn't quite match, how do you handle that? Can it be handled automatically as well? Then trying to work out the factors driving sales. So it's great to bring all this data together, but how do you set up a way so that you can say, okay, when I invested more in pay-per-click advertising, did that have an effect on brand awareness? Did it have an effect on my top line of sales as well? Like, did it influence the customer's decision for purchasing? But how do I separate that from, say, my increased social media engagement? So how do I really tell what was the driving factor in an increase or even a decrease in sales? Then another challenge is, once you've got all the data together, how do you share it with, say, more non-technical people in the business? So like your brand manager, who needs to be able to make a decision based on the insights that they're getting. How do you make it easy to view without just giving them rows and rows of Excel data? Can you do calculations ahead of time so that they don't have to like duplicate the effort every month or every time they want to see like the result of their calculation, or whenever new data comes in, having to like redo the calculation on all the new data as well? And then finally, I talked in one of my earlier slides about a lot of data coming in terms of reviews and social media posts. Reviews and posts can come in written form. They could be audio, they could be video as well. It's really tough bringing those together, and first of all filtering them to find like points of interest, but then even more harder is like aggregating those together as well to actually sort of understand, okay, what are people most complaining about? What do people most like about my product in terms of what I can see from the reviews? So all of that's a challenge, but really, if you can get over it, it presents a massive opportunity to really understand your consumers and how they're buying your product. What you can do first, obviously, is collect the data sources. Then if you can cleanse it and harmonize it together, merge it in with your master data so that you can filter at the same level and everything. How do you get it all to the same granularity? If you can get it down to week level, that can be pretty effective. Month could do as well. But really you want to see sort of smaller graduation of time so that you can say, okay, when I invested in January, I could see an uplift in sales in February or in March. And if you can do that at a weekly level, even better. Getting it down to a geography view, probably country would be sufficient, but obviously it depends on your business and sort of where you're targeting campaigns or anything like that. Then in terms of product level, again, getting to the same granularity is key, but often you probably only need to go to like brand or sub-brand level, particularly because a lot of advertising isn't really done at school level. It's done more around the brands. Then customer level is going to be more difficult. I think if you can get the first three, you're okay. There's obviously a lot of complications that come in with customers and like PII and stuff. But if you can get an aggregated view, it's still going to be really insightful. Then once you've got all that data into one data model, how can you build one single view for all your business users to really go to, refer to, collaborate on during meetings as well? And how can they take away those insights and let them affect like the decisions they're making on the business side? If there's like specific KPIs they're looking at or specific things they want to find out, can you pre-do those calculations for them? Or can you say create machine learning models to do things like measure the driving factors that have the most effect on, say, number of new customers or overall sales revenue? So to find out if I increase pay-per-click, is it going to be more effective than if I spend my money on increasing like targeted promotions or something like that? And then if you see there, as I change the slide there, all the data sources on the top right there, online survey data, organic social media data, referrals, reviews and ratings, all of that can be like quite qualitative, quite textual. So actually, if you can use large language models or any type of AI to like pre-process them and feed them into the data model in terms of being able to aggregate and filter, you can add a lot of value in terms of finding out like what are the common patterns that people are bringing up about your products and the type of feedback, or what are people saying about your brands. You can add that view and you can bring it into the data model as well. And of course, push it down to the business view through, say, a dashboard as well. And then another option, which is probably a lot longer down the road in terms of a future roadmap, but if it's feasible, you could try to adjust your business model to improve your understanding, basically in terms of being able to get better data. So an extreme of that would be being able to move, say, some products towards like a direct to consumer model. That's going to give you a lot better data understanding. Sort of less far view would be, okay, can I reach an agreement with my retailer, particularly if you're dealing in like modern trade scenarios? Can I reach an agreement with my retailer where they can share back sort of like aggregated customer data that's going to give me a lot more insight into how people are interacting on sort of those online marketplace platforms like Amazon? So how can Thorogood help you get started? What I'll say is we can help you build the thing on the right. We can help you build out the data model, ingest all that data as well, run the machine learning models, create the dashboards. And we could do it in sort of like a phase chunk so that it builds over time, or we could build out like a small, quick proof of concept to get you an idea of whether it's going to work or not. We can help you build that. So reach out to me, Sushma, any of our Thorogood colleagues. We can help you with data sources, where to find them, where we've seen other customers getting them. How do you ingest it efficiently and on an automated basis? How do you integrate all that data together? How do you apply data science to find those driving factors? How do you create that business view for the non-technical users to actually be able to query the data, get insights from it? And how do you implement the use of AI, particularly large language models, to get better qualitative data insights as well? So as I was saying, we can just help with any of that. Please do reach out to us or talk to a Thorogood consultant if you know one already. I put up a QR code here. If you wouldn't mind getting your phone, opening the camera and scanning the QR code to give us some feedback. But if there's also something you'd particularly like to discuss with us, do put it in like the additional comment section. We do see the survey results and we will respond if people are asking for help in anything. Equally as well, you can add me on LinkedIn and reach out that way if you want help with something. Like I said, thorogood.com/events for the events I've seen before, plus any more upcoming events, and thorogood.com/perspectives to see previous webcasts as well. So I've kept the feedback up there just as I say goodbye here in case you're still scanning it. But thanks for joining. If you have any questions, send it to me or Sushma. Other than that, have a really great day.